Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much all for showing up to tonight's class. We got a really good classroom today, which is really, really good. Tonight, I wasn't sure what classroom they were going to allow for me. Let me turn this up a little bit to make sure you're listening. Okay. Everybody listening? Everybody here? Attendance looked good. All week so far, we've had a lot of people showing up to class, which is very nice. Very nice because I come with all this stuff to prepare for you. So, in today's class, excuse me, in today's class, we are going to be going over the sci-fi movie, okay? The sci-fi movie script, which is really wonderful. You know, throughout these film lectures, throughout this series, we've had drama, we've had a war flick, and we've had a surrealism film about a young woman. And so we've had a good variation of different genres throughout our scripts. And so that's pretty exciting. We've got lots of different kinds of scripts. Now today, I have a couple things to announce. So for our sci-fi picture, our first sci-fi picture, let me make sure this is, bear with me, the microphone is a little warped today. That's okay. We're going to make it work anyhow. So, okay. Woo. Here, let's see if we can, oh my goodness, there we go. Okay. So here's what's going on, folks. We have up here on the screen, which is actually really, really nice, we have a picture of what the aliens will look like in the film. And so I don't know if you can all see that. And I'll put it up on canvas for you too, so you can see it. Here, let me put it on the main screen too, right here. Let me put this on pod A for you, so you can see. Yes. See, well, there you go. Now, this is really cool because this is actually showing a visual representation of what I was explaining to you with our part 1 of the sci-fi series. So here is our 10-foot hamster aliens, armored, and here's the gel liquid weapon that they have. Very, very good. And then here is the ants at their legs. And they're storming the beach, and they're having this big war with the military because they just happen to show up. Now, that kind of fades right into what I was going to tell you earlier. So what's going on with the script is we've changed some things. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Me and my team have worked on making a more suitable title and other details. So first things first is our new title is the McQuaid's Day of Peace is the name of this sci-fi picture. Wow, very cool name. Let me go back to the other picture here of our aliens. Now look, this is on a beach, right? And we decided that the location of our film is going to be in Rhode Island. Specifically the city of Newport. Newport in Rhode Island. Okay, and so that's where all of this happens. And our movie starts with the McQuaid's Marketplace. There's a real marketplace in Rhode Island, Newport, and it's a grocery store. And it's called the McQuaid's Marketplace. And so we decided, why not incorporate that into the title? McQuaid's Day of Peace. Which is funny because there's nothing peaceful about the alien takeover. So here, let me get the script back up on pod A. Okay, there we go. So we have a couple things here. I have both a little spiel that I came up with and of a deeper analysis of scene 1 to scene 2, but what we have here today, and we might only get through this today, is a detailed, finished master copy, master scene draft of scenes 1 and scenes 2 of this film, and how it starts and how it is incorporating our characters, introducing them, and showing you everything that you need to know as far as the film is being laid out. Okay? So here we go. Let's just get through this, and I'll try to speed through this so I can get to the other stuff. And I might only get a couple points of that other deeper analyses, rather. So here we go. Scene 1, intro, McQuaid's Marketplace. It's the daytime, and we're introduced to Jake. Right? Jake's 27 years old, and what we see is a clean, upscale grocery store in Newport. Light hardwood style flooring and black metal shelving. Handwritten chalkboard signs above local produce. Fresh flowers near the entrance and large front windows letting in soft coastal daylight. Okay, so your average really kind of fancy grocery store. Rhode Island, by the way, is a very expensive place to live, and so I thought, because one of my members on my team, when we were writing this together, they said, well, how about we make, let's make the grocery store kind of dingy and faded and dark lights. And I said, no. That's not going to work. This is Rhode Island. This is kind of an elitist place to live. It's a very nice city, very expensive. So the grocery store, it's got to be real good. Grocery store's got to be fancy. It's got to be for the rich. It's got to be premium, clean cut. So here we go, a clean, upscale grocery store in Newport. And now we're introduced to Jake. Jake's 27 years old. Stands on a short aluminum ladder in aisle 7, stocking canned soup. So he's stocking, he's a stocker, he's a stock boy, grocery boy, okay? And he's rotating each can so that the label's facing forward. He's doing it rather elegantly, perfectly. Every row is aligned, the spacing is exact. And so he steps down and he's studying the shelf. There's one can slightly off, and he fixes it real fast. He fixes it real fast. He's very good at his job. He's almost a perfectionist. That's some of his. That's what he's prone to go for intellectually. Is just making sure everything is very lined up. That everything is just kind of perfect. Which is, I'm sure his employers love that. Now, as he fixes his can and he adjusts it, there's this elderly woman, this old lady, old woman who is waiting patiently behind him. Old woman is waiting patiently behind him, and he turns around, oh, sorry, sorry, whoops. And she says, no rush, honey, no rush. You keep this place looking sharp, right? And he says, well, easier when things line up, is what he says. And so it's typical, actually. Typical of a thing that happens in a grocery store is when you are an employee, especially a stalker, because I used to be a stalker down at a grocery store, let me tell you, you'll have customers kind of quietly wait behind you, and they just sit there and they wait. They just wait for you to get the hell out of the way because they want to grab their, whatever. And so, this is what happens, right? And this old woman, she's right behind him. But she's nice, she says, no rush, you keep this place looking sharp. And he says, well, easier when things line up, because he likes things to line up. Now we're introduced to Phil. All right, Phil's our other employee of the grocery store, and he's, really good friends with Jake. And Phil's like 35 years old, he's stocky kind of guy. And so across the aisle, he's leaning up against this pallet jack, and he says, what? He's looking at Jake, he says, they're going to ruin that in about 3 minutes, right? Which is so true of a grocery store. And Jake says, then I'll fix it in 4. Because, Jake's kind of witty, he's got a sharp edge to him. Being a perfectionist, he doesn't miss a beat. So Jake pushes the stock cart forward in produce. And then now we're introduced to Kate. Kate comes out of nowhere. Now Kate is the 20, what was it? She was 20 something. Let's see. I have, well, anyway, she's 20 years old too, and your average, average girl that they hire, very pretty, very skinny, probably need to eat more food. Oh. And so she comes into the frame, and she's misting the lettuce. So she's kind of produce. She's the produce lady, and she goes up to Jake. Hey, dirty boy. She's very naughty, witty. She loves messing with Jake. She probably has a crush on Jake. I'm not gonna lie, which is typical of the grocery store environment. So she says, hey, dirty boy, decided to make it to work today. Already real witty. And he says, I showered. He's kind of playing along. She says, debatable. You got I alphabetized my cereal energy. Which I thought, that's a good little line. Give that to one of the folks on my team. They did good there. You got I alphabetized my cereal energy. Woke up on the wrong side of bed, maybe fell out of bed. And so Jake comes back real sharp. He says, well, that's because someone keeps breathing near the soup. Kate kind of leans into him. She kind of gets in his personal space. And incoming, and he's like, what? And she's like, here comes your favorite debate club president. And now Aaron. Wow. Oh, make sure you can see that. Okay, Aaron. Now Aaron approaches, basket in hand, smiling warmly. Now, if you guys remember, I went over these characters in our last class, but I'll just kind of... Aaron is a stocky, big guy, kind of like Phil, but a little younger than Phil. And he comes in real cheerful, real happy, and he is always coming as a customer to shop at the grocery store. But he always harasses Jake, right? He always questions Jake and asks him these things that are, just involve critical thinking. And Jake's trying to work, and so Jake is kind of mixed, He's friendly, and he tries to be nice to Aaron, but he kind of gets sick of him. He's just sick of him coming over and asking him stupid questions. But anyway, here comes Aaron, and Aaron's a lovable character, so don't get me wrong. You'll see later in the film why he's very much like this. So Aaron comes up to him, morning, and there's Jake. Hey, hello, there he is. And then Aaron, there goes Aaron. If the world ran like this shelf, we'd probably be fine. And Jake says, people aren't cans, kind of frustrated, but also just throwing it back at him. And Aaron says, well, that's the problem. You ever think you're organizing the wrong things? Question mark. Ooh. And so Jake, Jake's already shaking his head like, here we go again. You buying soup or you starting a podcast? That's what he tells Aaron. And Aaron says, well, I'm just testing the frameworks. If everything lined up, no conflict, would you trust it? And Jake says, well, it sounds unrealistic. It very much is in a grocery store. So does global unity, Aaron says. Jake says, unity is different from control. Aaron says, is it? Peace usually costs something. Ooh. Ooh, okay. Make sure you pay attention to that part right there. That is the big FS. Okay, the big FS. You remember what FS is, folks, right? So there's some big FS right there. Aaron is saying, just testing the framework. If everything lined up, no conflict, would you trust it? Jake says, unrealistic. Aaron says, so does global unity. And Jake says, unity is different from control. And Aaron says, is it? Peace usually costs something. And so, what we're seeing is Aaron is already establishing very much what is going to happen later in the film with these aliens coming with their, peaceful agenda. But really, they're just taking over. And so Jake says, well, everything does. And Aaron kind of smiles and says, well, I'll see you at checkout. And so, make sure I grab this. Keep these in order. Okay, Aaron leaves. Jake turns back to the shelf. Rows of identical soup cans. Perfect symmetry. He adjusts one again. And the fluorescent hum grows slightly louder. Okay, hold on. Make sure you got that. The fluorescent hum grows slightly louder. Okay, the repetition fills his vision. Fills his vision. Identical. 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 Okay, it's just everything is perfect synergy on this shelf. And he's just kind of in this repetition, almost disassociating, which is also FS alert, FS alert, make sure you pay attention. And the shopping cart squeaks right past him. And the customer says, sorry! And Jake kind of snaps out of it. He says, oh, you're good, you're good. Meanwhile, from produce, Kate comes over. You okay over there, Symmetry King? Kate is a lovable character, I'll tell you what. And Jake says, yeah, just thinking. And she says, well, that's dangerous. And Jake continues to push the cart forward. Just another shift, nothing is wrong yet. Nothing's wrong yet. Which again, then we go into our scene 2. So then it transitions to the store is closed. A laminated sign reads McQuaid's Marketplace, serving Newport since 1897. Meat lockers, there's corkboard schedules, there's charity run clippings, parking lot light glows through a small window. And aprons are hanging on the hooks, right? So those are some background scenery for you. Jake unties his apron slowly with precision. He folds it carefully and hangs it straight. Then here comes Phil. Phil's kind of the goofy goober of the grocery store. And so here comes Phil. Ladies and gentlemen, we have survived another day at the crown jewel of Aquaneck Island. He misses the trash with a wrapper, kind of shrugs, At this point, by the end of at the end of the shift of a grocery store job, you and your coworkers, you don't really care about anything. You're tired, you've worked a 12-hour, and you're just so happy to not have to work anymore. So yeah, he throws a piece of trash and misses. He's like, whatever, who cares? Who cares? And Phil continues. He says, $5 shots tonight at O'Malley's. I expect attendance. Kate kind of pulls on some boots. $5 shots? Oh, good. I was worried I wouldn't make poor decisions this weekend. Jake straightens her he straightens her crooked apron instinctively. And Kate says, it's going to get wrinkled again tomorrow, right? They're all comfortable with each other. They're friends. It's that kind of environment. It's closing. And, Jake and Kate have kind of a synergy. Like I said, Kate, is somewhat attracted to Jake. Jake's kind of attracted to her, Might be an unspoken relationship forming there, okay? Just maybe. I don't know. Leave that to the audience to decide. I might bring that to the team too, This movie might benefit from some romance, I don't know. But here we go. So Jake says, not if I'm here first. Kind of flirting with her. And then Phil jumps in. Symmetry King, you in? They're talking about the bar again. Jake says, yeah, I'll probably be there. Phil says, probably sounds like reorganizing your sock drawer. Kate says, he's absolutely color codes. Jake kind of looks at them both, like, no, look guys, it's Friday. It's Friday. I'm gonna go hang out with you guys, okay? And Phil says, exactly. Historic Newport nightlife. Discount tequila. Naval cadets trying to impress girls who grew up here. It's culture, Jake. Come on, it's culture. And Kate says, if by culture you mean regret and loud country music, sure. Right? And so I love that little part right there. That's really good right there, folks. Really, really good. Oh, we lost our camera. Come on. There we go, honey. Come on. There we go. Okay. What's in a while this thing goes out. At least we have a dot cam. We didn't have it that one night. Gosh, you go back and you see the lectures. So yeah, right? Here's Kate saying that if you culture, by culture, if you mean, regret and loud country music, sure. Now, Kate is your, I don't know if you all been to a grocery store in like a rural area or in a city, it don't matter. There's always that clerk or cashier or stalker or just, someone that works at the grocery store who kind of always falls back on like country music and drinking, right? And so Kate is just nailing this character by saying that. And so Jake says, I'll be there, blah, blah, blah. And Phil says, well, that's what I like to hear. Some of us don't live in chaos, Phil. Kate says to Phil. These guys are just bantering. They're just kind of making jokes and everything. And Jake pauses at the word chaos. And he glances at a schedule board, rows of names perfectly aligned. And he's just kind of quietly studying, this schedule board to see when he has to go to work again next. And there's Phil, and then Phil kind of is still talking in the background. He's like, O'Malley's, tennis, don't flake. And so the employees finally filter out. And Jake turns off, he's the last one there, he turns off the break room light, dark. And the hum of the building lingers. And just another Friday at McQuaid's, nothing unusual yet. And so there you go. There's two of the big scenes of the beginning scenes. And they are big scenes because they're at the very beginning. So now we've established our characters and we've established the workplace and we established a large amount of FS, right? A foreshadowing. That's really going to show what's coming next. And so one of the first points why the film starts with stocking soup, the film opens with repetition, not spectacle, okay? So for a sci-fi movie, typically it starts off with spectacle. It starts off with battles and wars, and here we are, our film is opening with repetition. Boring repetition. No spectacle, no meteors, no news broadcasts, not really even any hints on the surface of aliens or that this is going to be a sci-fi picture. Instead, we begin with Jake aligning soup cans. And what this does is this establishes repetition. It's establishing that repetition as a visual metaphor. Okay? A visual metaphor. And even down to the symmetry. The symmetry is very much being used as a thematic foreshadowing. Okay, so everything is very intentional. And it's showing the order as characters psychology, excuse me. It is psychological. All of my scripts are psychological, you know this by now. But the order as character psychology. The invasion later centers on enforced alignment. And Jake already believes in alignment. So that is very much intentional, thematic mirroring. That was a creative choice to show what's going to happen later. And I think it was a very good option to go with. Now, we'll see how much time we have here. Okay.